Bracket number 2, Nicole, Market Watch, no paywall here. Want to know why the housing market is so competitive? All you got to do is look at this one metric. So the savagely unhealthy market is saying that it's inventory, but the reason we have no inventory, according to a new report from Redfin, says it's because the typical homeowner is spending too long in their home. As of 2021, the typical homeowner has spent 13.2 years in their house. That's up significantly from a decade ago. Back in 2012, the average homeowner tenure was only 10.1 years. I often say, if you're going to buy a house, love the location, make sure you're going to stay there for 7+ years. I may have to add that, I may bump this up to 10
Right.
years, but no, market cycles, you could typically look at 7 years,
Yeah.
depending on the market, but people are staying in their homes for 2 market cycles, 13, 14 years.
Well, okay, but it's interesting though, because if you do the math on that, that lands us right into 2006. So let's
Right.
also be honest though, too, it's probably taken 13 and a half years for people to even get their flipping money back. So
In the Northeast, for sure. Yeah. Some
definitely in our
parts.
area, it's taken us that long to get back. So I'm not surprised that people are staying longer because they had to stay
But
longer.
we were talking about California when we were last week's episode, when we were talking about that new tax on flippers, and
Right.
it was up over 10 years there. So
Yes.
a lot of people are staying in their homes for a long time. Now, the last 10 or so years, we've had pretty low interest rates, historically low interest rates, certainly for the last 5 outside of 2018. We've had these really low interest rates. If you get
Right.
locked in, if you got
Yeah.
locked in last year to under 3, you're never going to want to give up that house.
Oh,
You're
well, I
better
have
off
a friend
renting it someday.
well, I was talking to my girlfriend, they locked in they did a VA, they locked in at 2 and a quarter
Yeah, you'd be
last year.
insane to sell that house.
Well, the problem is that I think I remember having this same problem maybe back in, like, maybe 12 or 13. No, maybe it was a little later than that, but again, people didn't want to sell their homes either because it was gonna cost them more, with their new house too. So
Yeah.
again, it really froze the market a few years ago
Well,
too, because people just again, it was gonna cost them more to move.
and here's the thing with like conveyance taxes, this new tax that we talked about.
In
If you didn't
California,
see
yeah.
last week's episode, definitely go check it out, where California wants to create this new tax. And if you sell your house within 7 years, you're going to have this additional tax on your profits. And within the
Right.
first 3 years, it was
25.
25%. It was insane.
Yeah.
So, if you start to see these increase in taxes, the increased cost of selling your real estate, then why would you sell it? You'd
Right.
be better
Our
off holding as an
inventory
Airbnb.
and our inventory problem will never go away.
Right. You're just going to
Yeah.
keep compounding this inventory problem over time if people don't want to sell their homes. Zillow says there's going to be this great reshuffling. People are going to be moving more and more. If you listen to Natalia, the CEO of Property, she believes we're going to go from 7 million home sales to a world where we're living in 10 to 14 million home sales per year, when Gen Z and millennials are buying and selling on the blockchain, because it's going to make the ease of transaction, so much smoother, and you're going to be able to do
Right.
it quicker and all this kind of stuff. But if it costs money due to, the government and the towns, levying these taxes on the sale,
Mhm.
then it may just become cost prohibitive to sell. Now, the one place, Nicole, people will point to loosen up the cost of selling. What do you think? What do you think? A lot of people say, well, let's just dig into the commissions. Do you think it'll be?
Obviously.
Do you think it'll be that? Yeah, I think there's a lot of people saying that. I actually heard at the Proppy event. I don't know if you're following Proppy, but if you're listening and you're not following Proppy, check out what they're doing. Really interesting stuff. They're putting transactions on the block. But I did hear one of the first speakers at the Proppy event. I got this DM after I put up the pod with Natalia,
Mhm.
that one of the first speakers said, we're going to see a world where agents are at 1% to make these transactions even smoother and more
Mhm.
streamlined. So everybody's trying to dig at that number.
Well, I mean, we're already seeing I mean, I think one agent locally was offering out $500. Like, she wasn't even offering out
What
a
was that?
percentage.
Was that a real agent or was that just list on the MLS type of thing?
No, it was a real
A
agent.
real agent.
She was selling her own property, and she put $500 on there,
Oh, it's her own property.
and
As
everybody
as
was
the
questioning
co-broke, as
it.
what she was,
Yes, what
offering
she was
to the buyer's
offering
agent?
out. Yeah, and again, there's this big uproar within the office because, obviously our manager sent it out and said, "Be aware that if you're taking your client this weekend to look at this house, the co-broke was $500." And
That
one
was
of
in
the
Connecticut.
it was in Guilford,
Wow.
and again, one of the agents said that she called and questioned it, and the lady said, "I don't need to offer more than
Well,
$500 in this
she's right.
market."
She
Yeah,
doesn't. Well, she
right,
I mean, she can do whatever she wants. You
right.
know what I mean? So,
Yeah,
uh,
yep.
there's not much you can do about it. It is what it is.
It
Obviously,
is what it
a
is.
buyer has to negotiate their value to,
Mhm.
or the buyer agent to the
To the
buyer.
buyer to see
Yeah.
make the buyer pay. Yeah. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
it's knocking. I mean, most co-brokes now are down, a banana or 2 at this point on the MLS, so
It's still the most interesting thing that can disrupt Zillow's model is if the buyer commission gets completely disrupted, and that's way off topic at this point. But yeah, so people staying in their homes longer,
back to staying in your home for 13
back
years.
to staying in your home. We went down the whole entire
We
dark path and
totally
circled
went
back.
down. Yeah.
I don't know, Nicole. What do you think this continues to go? It actually dropped slightly between 2020 and 2021. It was at 13 and a half years. Now it's at 13.2. Will it start dropping? I mean, I don't know. Interest rates go up. It could go back the other way.
Yeah, again, it's a hard one. I mean, they're obviously talking about the baby boomers and it's sort of age driven as well. I mean, I know like my parents, like they like to keep their house. They're keeping their house. They're not selling it. I mean, but they have a house in Ireland too. But they're keeping their family house because they need to keep room for all of us to come home if we ever decide to. So, um, I don't know. It's all very interesting. I
Yeah.
don't. Again, I don't. It's hard to even know what would cause anybody to sell. Again, luckily they have a second home. I think that would be the only reason that you would then decide to sell because you have a place to go.
There's this
Um,
belief out there that Gen Z is going to move very often, like every couple of years. I don't know. It's hard to move. Somebody have to make moving easier. The bills, the mail, the furniture, there's just all of that. So I don't know that we get to a place ever where people are just like,
well, and again, like you're saying, the cost of moving is so much. I mean,
yeah, being
then they'll just stay in the rentals, like just hop around in the rentals.
being
Um,
comfortable moving every 2 to 3 years. I don't
yeah,
know. As you get older, you get stuff, you get kids, you get, nonsense in your life. And just,
lots of nonsense.
hey guys, if you enjoyed this short clip from the real world, click here for another one.
Or if you like the full episode, click here.